What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video today, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the Phoenix Models November 2025 releases. So now we're on the standard schedule for Phoenix. We've got this announcement labeled for November, so let's take a look. Got ourselves a pretty decent set of hints, I would say, for global variety anyway. Two A321s, those look to be Thai Airways perhaps, or something from Thailand in general. The A330's 5 Alpha, I don't think I've seen that prefix before, so we'll certainly figure out what that prefix will be about. There's an A340 with the French registration, then a couple of A350s, one South Korean and a British, and then a 747 with a Papa prefix. Then we have a couple North American 76s, a Canadian and November, 777 South Korean, and then the 787, a Chinese example, and then Alpha 6, so we'll have one from the UAE. A couple Illusion 62s, Papa and a Uniform Romeo example, and then a Comac C919 in there as well. It looks like the A330s, they are from Libya, so that's what the 5 Alpha prefix is. So there we go. Thanks to the wonderful people there on the Model Airliner Forum for helping me out with that in a way. Alright, so Phoenix releases, they've been posted, they are out there now, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what we've got. To start off, there's a Thai Airways example, the first A321neo, and then there's also a second one as well, a sister ship. And then here are the A330s. We have I don't even know how to pronounce that airline name, I am not going to try, but there's one with a green Libyan flag, and then there's one, a post-2011 Libyan flag. And then we have an Air France A340-300. I'll be curious to see if that one's an old livery example, or maybe one with the newer livery like my Gemini rendition that I have. And then there's a Korean Air A350-900, and then a British Airways A350-1000. Very nice. I think that's one of the same registrations that NG was planning on announcing at some point down the line. And then there's a Varig 743, so that's what the Papa hotel, or Papa registration was. And then, Amazon Prime Air. I actually got two of them. One of them, the Canadian registered example, and then there's also an American registered one. I've been wanting a Prime Air 7.6 for a long time, so this is definitely going to be something on my list of models to purchase, which is just way too large right now. And then 777 Freighter, Korean Air Cargo. This, I think, is going to be the new livery, since there's one that's flying around now. I think that might be the same one, actually. Then we have a Hainan Airlines example and an Abu Dhabi Amiri flight, 788. Then we have Illusion 62 Air Koryo, so that's the North Korean airline. And then we also have an Air Ukraine example. And our last one there, for the C919, a China Southern example. Alright, as you saw there, I only had the text list initially for the Phoenix November releases, but I have found several retailers now that have them up for pre-order, so we can actually look and see what these models are supposed to look like. I did take a look through this briefly earlier, so I have a rough idea of what to expect out of this, but now that I've got some time here, let's take a look at them more in depth. So the first row you'll see, we have the Thai Neos there. Both of them don't have their engines fitted in the photos there. Then you have the Libyan A330 there, Air Libya. I'll just refer to it as that, since I'm not going to be able to pronounce the airline name presented on the fuselage correctly, but there you go with the two A330s. Very unique airline for sure, and I appreciate Phoenix doing that nice variety. Moving up, the A340, so this is actually in the newer livery, so like the Gemini release that I have. And then there's the Varig 743 in the newer-ish livery. And the Etihad 788, that one is a presidential flight aircraft, so pretty interesting there. And that is the only Etihad 787-8 that is in that livery. And then the Hainan 789, that one's a standard livery. And then you'll see up top with the Comac C919, that China Southern, that's that 15th National Games livery, the same one that's on the A350. They have the Air Koryo, Illusion 62, and the Air Ukraine examples. Those are about what I expected. Same for the Korean A350. That one is in the new livery. And then the top row up here, you've got the British Airways A350-1000, same reg, or at least one of the regs that NG is planning to release at some point. Then with the Prime Air examples, the 763, the Canadian registered one was actually the one that overran the runway in Vancouver, and they actually repaired the aircraft, got it back in service now. And then there's also a U.S. registered one, so I'll definitely have to pick that one up because I have been meaning to add Prime Air, a 763, for a very long time. And then you see the Korean Air Cargo 777, the new livery that has surfaced, which is a bit disappointing in my opinion because they don't have the Korean Air Cargo titles. It just says Korean now, like the passenger aircraft. So for the untrained eye, it would be a bit difficult to ascertain if it's a freighter plane or not on the 777, which, you know, the freighters are obviously shorter than the 300 and the 300 ERs that they already have, but for those that are not trained to identify the differences between the 777 variants, that might be a little bit difficult to tell. But that's just how I feel. The livery is still nice, but I think Korean Air Cargo titles would have worked better for their freighter aircraft than just simple Korean titles. So those are the Phoenix releases. A very good announcement this month. I definitely like the variety that they've gone with, and again, another airline that I've not heard of before, the Air Libya A330, a very unique option. And then that China Southern Comac C919. The more that I see that livery, the more attached I get to it, and it's just not a feeling that I've had with some of the other special liveries that have come from China. I think it has to do with the fact that there's all the blue hues on it, the blue and purple hues that are just all over it. It looks super nice, and that A350 is going to look really awesome in model form whenever that does come out from a manufacturer. And I like the Illusion 62 options. Once again, those are very nice. The Prime Airs are definitely the highlight of this release, especially for US collectors, because the previous releases that they've done, they've sold out, they're hard to find, and Gemini has done a handful of releases, but only for Amazon themselves. They are not allowed to do public releases, as I understand it, for whatever reason, but I think that's what Amazon has told them. So if you've ever seen a Gemini Jets Prime Air 767 on eBay, just know that it's not a public release. It was meant for Amazon, and I guess somebody decided to sell it on the secondhand market, and I don't think they can really do anything about that, because once it's in another person's hands, it's kind of whatever. So happy for the Prime Airs, and hopefully we get more releases of that in the future. So I'll definitely have to snag one up as my budget allows. And then I definitely want like the Korean A350 for obviously the East Asia project. That will also be nice. And then maybe that China Southern. I might have to get that special livery, whether it's on the 350 or the C919. I'm not 100% sure yet, but long term, I'll definitely assess that as we move forward. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.